Hello once again and welcome to the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour. It's Saturday the 16th of March 2013 and we are at the Grosvenor Victoria Casino on Edgware Road for the final day, the final table of the EPT London main event. I'm James Hartigan, joined by Joe Stapleton to call the action at what is a pretty awesome final table.
I wouldn't say pretty awesome, I'd say one of the best, certainly in my tenure here at the EPT. Plenty of huge names, plenty of even huger storylines. Just about every single player you take a look at this final table has some sort of interesting running thread that we've been following this entire tournament. We started bringing you coverage from day one. It'll be quite cathartic to get us all the way through to a winner today.
This is the climax of our live coverage, which began on day 1A. We followed this tournament through every single level. We're midway through level 26, actually towards the end of level 26, the 2040 blind level. Blinds shortly going up to 2550 with a 5k ante. And very shortly we'll introduce the 8 players who've made the final table. And as you can see on the bottom of your screen right now, this is a multilingual transmission. Wherever you are in the world, there is something for you. Obviously, you can watch our English stream here on PokerStars.tv. You can also watch in Russian, in French, in Portuguese. There are 2 separate Belgian streams in French and Dutch. We've got LATAM, Spanish, Romanian coverage, and today the Germans join us on sport1.de. And a reminder, you can watch us on the go as well. Make sure you download the PokerStars TV app, available for iOS and Android devices. So download it from the App Store or from Google Play and watch us on your tablet or smartphone. We want to hear from you over the course of the day. We'd love to hear who you're rooting for and who you think will win at the final table. Tag your tweets EPT Live, email nuts@pokerstars.tv, and a bit later on we'll invite your questions for our guests, hoping to be joined by a few members of Team PokerStars Pro today, including Liv Boeree, Chris Moneymaker and Daniel Negreanu, plus Mohsin Charania, Grand Final champion in Season 8, he's going to be dropping by. Mike Timex McDonald, who had a deep run in this tournament, was on the verge of becoming our first 2-time winner. He'll also be providing some guest commentary, and of course we'll have regular updates from the PokerStars blog team. Right now, Joe and I are joined by Stephen Bartley, reporter with the PokerStars blog. And Stephen, this really is a stellar lineup.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was saying, obviously Joe's been here for the last couple of seasons. I've been here since Season 2. This is probably the best final table I've ever seen. You've got four truly outstanding players, and another 4 players who are quite capable of sort of winning this. So we could have a really great day.
Who do you qualify as your 4 outstanding players?
Well, that would be Ruben Visser, Steve O'Dwyer, Chris Moorman, and Theo Jorgensen. I'm sure we'll talk about those at length during the day, but I mean, even the other players, Christopher Frank, Mantis Visokis, all of them have shown some degree of flair this week.
I love the fact that we've got a real international mix, and something that your colleague Howard Swains observed yesterday, Stephen, is this is like an old school EPT final table with virtually every country in Europe represented, plus we've got Steve O'Dwyer from the USA. We've got a Swede at the table, a Dane at the table, Mantis Visokis representing Lithuania, Ruben Visser, one of the best players in Holland, 2 Brits, 2 English guys at the table, and the German Christopher Frank. Let's talk about the players that maybe we're not so familiar with. Christopher Frank, a very young guy, only just started playing the game. This is only his 2nd live event, and could become the 2nd youngest EPT main event winner.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think I worked this out yesterday. Mike McDonald is obviously the youngest so far. He was 18 years, 4 months, and something like 22 days. I think Christopher Frank is a little older than that today, so, but still, 2nd youngest EPT winner is quite something.
We've got cards in the air here at the final table. A reminder that blinds are 2040 with a 5k ante. We've got the blue chips in play. Those are worth 5,000. The yellows are 25,000. And you'll notice in front of Steve O'Dwyer a tower of green and black chips. Those are the 100k chips.
Sexy green and black chips.
First hand of the final table. The action is folded to Chris Moorman. He raises to 85,000 from the hijack. Decision on Theo Jorgensen from Team PokerStars Pro.
Chris is the 2nd shortest stack at this table.
And 2 things we need to say about Theo, Stephen. Obviously, this is his comeback to the live circuit after what happened just before Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, and I know you talked about that with Howard yesterday. There's a great article on the PokerStars blog at the moment that you can read. That really sort of a sort of in-depth interview with Theo, who's remarkably upbeat about his whole situation at the moment. But it's a really great read, so you can see that on the PokerStars blog.
Theo, one of the shortest stacks at this final table. If he were to win, he would complete the Triple Crown. He's got the World Series bracelet, the WPT title. He just needs that EPT star to complete it.
That's right.
Well, he's 3-bet Moorman. He's made it 185,000. Action has been folded back around to Mormon by the looks of things.
Now, even though Mormon is one of the shorter stacks, second shortest, I believe, to start things off here, I wouldn't expect him to be too much scared money. Not his style, not the way he really plays.
Yeah, you know, I want him to do really well, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the first out, simply because of that. You know, he's not going to wait around trying to eke his way further up the money.
And Mormon folds to the 3-bet. So Theo Jorgensen wins the first hand of the final table. Here's what they are playing for at the final of EPT London. Everyone has locked up £57,000. Big jumps along the way. The top 6 guaranteed a 6-figure score, with the winner receiving £700,000. And some early tweets coming in. Simon says it will be sick heads up, Mormon versus O'Dwyer, but it's already an epic final table. Milko says rooting for Ruben, go Holland, and a little bit for Christopher Frank, since I'm 18 myself. And Greg says go England, go Arsenal, go Mormon, go me. Hashtag for the win.
I think if we're going to talk about dream heads-up matches, it's got to be O'Dwyer, Jorgensen. I mean, those are just, we'll be free-rolling on human interest stories there, at least, since Steve O'Dwyer was the runner-up here last time we were in London, about 18 months ago, last October. And, of course, Theo just has that, you know, awesome comeback story.
Steve O'Dwyer, the final table chip leader, coming in today with around 5.3 million in chips and raising here from under the gun +1 to 90,000. Mantas Vizotskis in the small blind, counting out a 3-bet. He will re-raise to just over 200,000 by the looks of things. 275, close to 300,000.
That is a pretty big re-raise. A little more than 3x.
And O'Dwyer will fold. So first 2 hands have seen a raise and a 3-bet, and in both instances the 3-bet has taken it down pre-flop. So going around the table, Mantas Vizotskis, who won that hand there. What do we know about him, Stephen?
Well, he was sort of had one of those sort of slow building weeks. He was sort of chip leader on day 3. I think he played a bit on the final. Did he play on the feature table this week? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, people at home have been able to get a bit of a view of him. But as far as we're concerned, he's kind of one of the sort of new players to this, to this stage of an EPT, if you like. But yeah, I mean, he's shown himself this week to be quite capable of being here. He's earned his place at this final table. It's his to win.
Obviously one of those players who's had a lot of success online, nearly $600,000 in online winnings on Stars. He plays as Crafty_LT. Runner-up finishing the Sunday Million just before Christmas. That was worth the better part of $200,000.
Yeah, I remember him saying that he just wanted to see how good he was, so he wanted to play an EPT.
I like that attitude. Well, it's been folded to him on the button, and he's going to raise his button. He's not, he's just called. The limp the button strategy, the patented O'Dwyer move.
Weird. Well, O'Dwyer, I don't think is limping the button that often. Is more from middle or slightly early position. This is even more bizarre.
Olaf Haglund calls from the small. And Ruben Visser checks his options, so we're going 3-way to this flop. Olaf Haglund, the obligatory Scandi at the final table, Stephen.
Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing I read about Olaf Haglund is that he took up poker after resigning as a paper boy. That was what he told us when we were talking to him yesterday. Presumably, they have older paper boys in Sweden. That's my only sort of analysis of that. But again, he's been a great player this week. He's certainly impressed a few people, so it was probably a wise decision to hang up the satchel and concentrate on poker.
Well, Tobias tweets to say, glad to see some fellow Vikings at the EPT final table. Those Brits won't last long. And Henrik concurs. Theo's going to win for sure. He is so intimidating at the poker table. So a bet from Vizotskis on the flop. Gets a fold from Haglund, a call from Visser. Heads up to the turn, which is the ace of spades. There's now a potential flush out there.
You have to wonder what type of hand Vizotskis has that he's just going to limp and doesn't mind taking a flop 3 ways with, because it's almost always going to go three ways
Board pairs on the river.
when you limp the button.
And Ruben Visser now leads after it went check on the flop. Quick call from Vysotskis.
Visser has an 8.
And Vysotskis has a queen. Limping the button with queen 8 suited. Curious.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that I can sort of put any sort of distinct strategy on that other than you just want to see a flop for cheap.
Ruben Visser, obviously one of the names we put in the top 4, Stephen, a Dutch pro, was a former member of Team PokerStars Pro, made the final table of the PCA last year. I guess the only other player we haven't discussed, who's kind of a slightly unknown quantity, is the other Englishman at the table, Tamer Camel.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's sort of one of those typical Vic local players. This is his manor. This is his patch. I think he lives about 15 minutes away in Willesden or something, which isn't very far away from here. Yeah, he's shown all the hallmarks of a good solid player. He plays a lot online. Yeah, and is getting married at the end of this year, so probably needs to finish top 3 to pay for that.
And when he's not playing poker, he runs his family's pizzeria in Good Street.
It's a great tube station, so the pizza must be great.
That's not the password for today's free roll, by the way. It'd be very confusing if we chose a tube station with 2 words, because people wouldn't know whether to put the space in or not. Now,
I'm sure they would ask.
Vysotskis limps for the second hand in a row. This time from the cutoff. Dwyer calls, sorry, Visser calls in the small blind. Dwyer checks in the big blind. So once again, 3-way to the flop in an unraised pot. Ace, ace-7 with 2 diamonds.
See, now what do? Are you ever really limping with an ace? Can you rep an ace with a bet here? He does bet the flop, gets a call from Visser.
Once again, these two go heads up to the turn. Double paired board now. And now it goes check, check. Pretty familiar pattern to the last hand we saw these guys play. 4 of hearts on the river.
Visser probably a big fan of his king high right now.
Check, check. Queen high, Vysotskis announces.
Queen high, good. He limps with queen jack suited this time.
Bizarre. I mean, I would have thought queen 8 suited on the button, queen jack suited from the cutoff. These are traditional raising hands, but there are no rules in what you must do with a hand in poker.
I can't really figure out the strategy at all. I'm not going to say that it's bad necessarily. I'm just wondering, and also this isn't the game we've seen from him thus far, so I'm just wondering what changed, what advice he got overnight that sort of, just what's got it in his head to start limping.
Those are the stacks of the 8 players who've made the final of the main event. Darren tweets to say, how come EPT London isn't being recorded for TV? Is that a first for London? It is, however, as we've mentioned several times during the week, there are 2 EPT Londons this year, because it's going back to the autumn where it traditionally lives. So there will be another London event in 2013, which will be part of season 10 of the European Poker Tour, and that will be the EPT London that gets televised this year. Big hello to Christian, who says, been playing PokerStars all week. Started with 50 cents in my bankroll at the beginning of EPT London. Bankroll now stands at $36.20. Your live stream has been good luck to me.
Wow. Crushing.
Have we had word whether or not Theo Jorgensen's father has arrived? I know he's a big fan of watching his son play final tables.
No confirmation yet. I have to say there's quite a rail building, and I imagine that with Chris Moorman at the final table, once the Moorman fans have woken up, I mean, bear in mind, it's only like 12:15 in the afternoon local time, I imagine they'll be there and probably enjoying a beverage or two, Steve.
That's right, there'll be extra staff on the bar tonight, I think.
Blinds now up. We're at level 27 of the tournament. 25 and 50,000 with a 5,000 ante.
That means folks like Moorman, Tamer Kamel have both just dropped under 20 bigs.
Action's been folded around to Olaf Haglund. He folds. Ruben Visser in the cutoff. Or raise. 115,000.
He's not precious with those green and black chips. Dwyer calls on the button.
Mormon folds, and Theo. There's often a spot where Theo likes to squeeze. But he just calls as well, so we're going three-way to the flop. It's the sixth hand we've seen at the final table.
It's not a bad spot for a squeeze, actually. Ruben's going to be raising late most of the time. Steve's going to be calling pretty wide on the button.
6, 8, 9, rainbow flop.
Theo checks back to the pre-flop raiser.
And Ruben Visser happy to continue into two opponents for 190,000. Gets O'Dwyer to fold, and Theo will pass as well. Got some emails to nuts@pokerstars.tv. Palauski says, I hope Mantas Visotskis wins. We need our first Lithuanian EPT champion so badly. Need may be a bit strong. I understand that you want a Lithuanian EPT champion. Christopher in Denmark says, guys, nice streaming every day of the week. We'd like to see Theo go all the way. He really deserves it. And we need a new Danish EPT winner. Come on, guys. You had 3 in a row last season. You do not need another one.
Does seem a little bit selfish.
I think the word need is being thrown around a little bit loosely here. And Albert says, got home from work extra early to watch this. Come on, the young gun, Christopher Frank for the win. Brendan says, busted out of event 16 of the Micro Millions just so I could enjoy the live coverage without distraction. Rooting for Theo. Second hand in a row, we get a raise from Ruben Visser, and Steve O'Dwyer once again calls in position. Theo not playing this time. Tamak Camel will fold the big blind. So heads up to this flop. King, King 10, 2 diamonds. Visser first to speak. There is the continuation bet of 135,000.
Dwyer calls.
There's the third diamond.
Yeah, you would expect Ruben to slow down here a lot.
Steve checks behind. 8 on the river. Ruben checks and Steve checks. Ruben shows pocket 9s. And they are good. Steve mucks. Ruben wins another pot. Up to nearly 4 million in chips. Narrows the gap between himself and Steve O'Dwyer. Steve still out in front with 4.7 million. Ruben on around 3.99. And we can see, as Joe mentioned a short while ago, Mormon and Camel both playing 18 bigs. Need to make something happen. Amir asks, I'm watching the final table. Why aren't there whole card cameras? Maybe not for now because you're live, but after the tourney, I want to see what they played. Well, just to go back to the question we had earlier on from Darren, this is not a televised event, so we don't have the table with the whole card cameras. This is what we call EPT Live Lite. We bring you live coverage. You get to see every hand, but you don't get the whole card information.
And this event will not be recorded for television, so there will be no hole cards later. There aren't any hole card cameras, so
Yeah.
WYSIWYG.
Should say that the last 2 days of our live coverage, so the penultimate day when we played down from 15 to 8, and today's coverage will eventually be archived at PokerStars.tv. So if you missed yesterday or you want to watch the final table at a later date, you will get a chance to see it.
Matthew writes in to say that Vasakis is limping a position a lot because all the stacks to his left can put him in tough ICM spots by 3-betting. Makes sense.
Now, this is the third hand in a row that Ruben Visser has raised, and Chris Moorman sees it as a good spot to shove over the top of that raise. He gets the all-in triangle placed in front of his stack. And I imagine Ruben would like a count on that stack. $875,000 total.
Less than a quarter of his stack, and I think he's out of here.
Oh, Ruben. You're raising that light?
See ya.
Yes, he was. So Moorman gets that one through. Blinds and antes, plus a bit of dead money. Someone calling for the captain.
That's
from the
right.
rail,
I
Stephen.
just noticed the first calls from the rail. That'll be prominent throughout the day, I'd imagine. Not that I understand what any of it meant.
Dr. Darren on Twitter says, I played with Olaf before. He has got game, but we may not see it with the worst seat draw ever. Do you think he's got the worst position at the table, guys? I don't think there's a good seat at this final table, to be honest with you.
I have to say we have Olaf pegged as our 5th place finisher. 5th place being the spot where the guy we've never really seen before sort of puts in his best career result.
I don't know, sometimes that's the first place finisher.
Occasionally that happens, yeah, and occasionally the 5th place finisher is a pretty good name pro, but you know, it happens quite a lot that the middle of the table it's a breakthrough performance with a player who we've never seen before.
Just got confirmation via Twitter that Mike McDonald will be joining us later.
Another former 5th place finisher.
Also a former winner who at the time we had never heard of before.
It's funny, we sometimes look back at the results and see great scores by players we now take for granted and forget that that was their first result and we didn't know them prior to their big win.
That last hand was raise and take it for Olaf Hagland. Hello to Tonya, one of our regular viewers in Canada, I believe. Tonya says, thank you guys and guests, as well as everyone behind the scenes for an awesome week. PokerStars rocks. You're welcome, and a reminder that we are going to be doing it again at the next leg of the EPT. We're heading to the German capital next month. EPT Berlin kicks off on Sunday the 21st of April, so mark it in your diary or online calendar now. Sunday the 21st is day 1A, and once again we'll follow every single day of the action on EPT Live right through to the final table on Saturday the 27th.
Right in your diary, right next to all the boys you think are cute.
Oh, I forget that in American English a diary is where you kind of record what you were doing today rather than the appointments you have.
Your little journal. Your little thoughts and hopes and dreams with a little lock on the front. Keep it under your mattress.
Also, let's be honest, most people these days are using a calendar app of some nature on their computer or phone.
I still use the old-fashioned pen and little notebook.
Once again, Stephen, looking at the way you dress, that makes a lot of sense.
I'll be the last one to do it.
The guy in the tweed suit writes down everything in an actual calendar. Story checks out. Hey, what time you got on your pocket watch?
I can take this.
You should consider a pocket watch. It would kind of complete the look, Stephen.
Is that not more of an affectation rather than just preference?
Then we just need the monocle and the pipe, and the picture is complete.
Well, I'll go for the pipe. But,
Warman seems like he's got a hand here. Maybe a little worried by how early Steve raised, but he's gotten over it.
Yeah, comes over the top of O'Dwyer's raise to 115,000, all in for just over $1 million. The blinds get out the way, it's back on Steve O'Dwyer. It was an under the gun +1 raise. An observation from Patrick on Twitter that the English players need to chip up and chip up quick. That's what Moorman's trying to do here. O'Dwyer finds himself in a similar spot to that faced by Ruben Visser a couple of hands ago. Once again, the captain's shove gets through.
Captain, huh?
Diane says, what do you do with the tables after the tournament? My husband wants a poker room and one of your tables will be lovely in it. They will be packed and shipped to Berlin. We will need them at the next leg of the European Poker Tour. Obviously, the TV table will be refelted. Instead of having the logo of the Grosvenor Victoria Casino, it'll be the logo of the Spielbank Berlin. And instead of saying EPT London, it will say EPT Berlin, so that we can do exactly what it says on the tin. Olaf says the monster O'Dwyer will ship it. Thanks for the nice week. Olaf, you may have misheard. It's the hairy beast. Now, the monster just makes him sound like some kind of serial killer. The hairy beast is an affectation.
He only shows down monsters.
Theo Jorgensen raising here to 110,000. Hageland in the small blind.
Theo's only got about 30 bigs.
Raise gets through. Not much post-flop play, Stephen. Is that what you expected during the early levels?
No, well, I kind of expected Chris Moorman to be doing exactly what he's doing, and you have to wonder how the dynamic of the table will change if he's able to double up. But not really too many surprises. I mean, the short stacks have got to double up, and that means Chris has got to do what he's doing, and the rails are going to shout what they're shouting. So we'll see what the next sort of level, how that sort of has an effect, how that changes the shape of the table.
Now, we should mention, Stephen, that this isn't the only final table being played today. Of course, we've got the final table of the high roller event, and we gave our viewers a little bit of bonus coverage of that tournament yesterday. They're down to the final, and that final will start playing a little bit later on this afternoon. I have to say, it's a good lineup, but I think the main event kind of knocks it out of the park.
I was going to say, we were talking about this in the press room earlier. This is possibly the first time that the main event final lineup has been better than the high roller final. I mean, the high roller always has an advantage in that the sort of if the magazine cover players, if you like, are always sort of out in numbers. But this is an unusual sort of scenario where actually the main event I think that has the edge.
And let's talk about the lineup at that final table. A few amateur players in there.
Yeah, there's Gautam Sabharwal. I was looking at his record. I think he sort of cashed earlier this week in a side event. Prior to that, he had a record in a score in 2005. So that's 8 years in the wilderness, presumably in highly profitable business. But he's sort of surprised a few people.
Also got Talal Shikirchi, who's made a few of our televised super high rollers.
This hand here, by the way, Visser limped, O'Dwyer raised. Makes it 180,000.
And Visser gives it up. So in addition to Shikirchi and Sabharwal, a few familiar pros in the hunt as well. Among them JC Alvarado, this year's PCA champion Dimitar Danchev, and Vicky Corrin has bounced back and made the final of the high roller.
That's right. She's sort of put her main event disappointment behind her, really, and in the best possible way. She's reached the final. I think she's second chips at the moment.
Plus a couple of guys who were on the feature table we showed you in the high roller yesterday, Faraz Jaka and Fabian Quast. The final table made up of Eric Svez and Paul Volpe.
Yeah, there aren't really sort of. I mean, we say it's not as good as the main event. It's still a good final table, and there aren't really many weak spots. Everyone's got sort of previous. Everyone's got a sort of some big results that sort of have earned them their right to sort of play high rollers, really.
A reminder that if you do want to follow the action at that high roller final table, live updates will be provided by the team at the PokerStarsBlog.com.
We were actually trying earlier to work out how many players were staying in the Radisson Blue Hotel today because of the fire alarm at 6 o'clock this morning. Wondering if that was a deliberate sabotage effect on anyone's part.
Yeah, if you're wondering why our production team are looking a little bit bleary-eyed this morning, they are staying at the Radisson.
Oh, really?
I never knew there was a noise that existed like that. That was some fire alarm.
Well, they've had 1 or 2 fires in this city.
Jorgensen's under the gun raise, 3-bet by Ruben Visser on the button.
I think there's a big fireman's protest happening here today, right?
Oh, really?
Demonstration?
I mean, I'm not going to say that the fire brigade were slow to arrive, so someone came.
I think Theo just announced raise. 4-bet coming. In response to Visser's bet of 265,000.
Theo, probably at this point, not one of those guys that's afraid of commitment.
No, I completely agree. I don't think he's going to sort of be shy at all.
$515,000.
And Visser's put like over $250,000 to this pot already. But Theo has certainly shown with this 4-bet that his hand is strong enough to call it all in.
Ruben gives it up. And a call from the rail for Theo Jorgensen. Quite an audience building here at the Grosvenor Victoria Casino. At the moment they're taking up the seats, but I imagine it's going to be deeper than that as the tournament goes on.
It's not bad for 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon, really, is it?
Absolutely. Stephen, thank you very much for telling us a bit about the players at the final table and also bringing us up to speed with what's happened in the high roller event. A reminder that PokerStarsBlog.com is your friend for the background on many of the players at the final table, for all of the previous day's action in this tournament, and for those live updates from the high roller event. You can also follow them on Twitter at PokerStarsBlog. Nico Schroeder on Twitter says, I'm German, but I'm watching the EPT on the iPad in English. I started with you, and I'm staying with you. Love your commentary. GP, not such a big fan. Where is the German stream, guys? Sport1.de is the website you need to go to, GP, if you would like to watch EPT Live auf Deutsch.
Christopher Frank raising. First hand we've seen him involved in. Over to our Dwyer on the button, who folds. And it's a raise and take it for the kid in the 8 seat.
I have to say he's tightened that hood today, Joe. Yesterday we had a flash of highlighted hair.
Tighten his hood, tighten his play.
In a short moment, in the next couple of minutes, we will be joined by our first guest commentator of the day, Liv Boeree from Team PokerStars Pro. So if you have a question for Liv, you can tag your tweet EPT Live. Alternatively, you can email nuts@pokerstars.tv. By the way, if you are a German speaker and you are in the UK and you want to watch that German feed, You, my friend, are out of luck. We've actually discovered that you have to be in Germany, i.e. you have to have a German IP address to watch EPT Live in German via sport1.de. The 15th hand of the final table. Action has been folded to Chris Moorman on the button. Starts the hand with 1.2 million and raises to 105,000.
You know, I think Theo picked off a light raise from Moorman on the first hand. Looks like he might be considering doing the same here. And we can't be sure that Moorman's raising light, but we can be sure that he's probably going to raise 100% of the time when it's folded to him on the button, despite his chip stack. And all that stack's going to mean is that he can't really play back unless he's got a hand.
An interesting comment on Twitter from poker journalist Ross Jarvis about that last hand between Jorgensen and Visser. We'll come to that after this hand's played out. Theo is going to respond to the raise with a 3-bet from the small blind. $280 total.
It's entirely possible Chris knows exactly what Theo's doing as well, so. Big time leveling wars.
Obviously an all-in or fold situation for Moorman. But which is it going to be? He's all in. Give him the triangle. Theo calls. Moorman at risk with pocket sevens. And Theo Jorgensen gives a deep sigh.
And a call here at the main event.
Ace-king, it is a race.
Chris Moorman from UK goes all in.
Yeah, and this is probably going to go in most of the time, I'm thinking. Theo, you know, Chris can't really expect Theo to expect him to have a hand as good as sevens.
Pocket sevens. And Theo Jorgensen from Denmark calls with ace-king.
I think it's just going to happen like this every time.
The flop is Jack of diamonds, ace of diamonds, king of hearts.
Not looking good for Moorman.
2 pairs.
Two pair, not much worse though for just than hitting 1 pair.
Theo Jorgensen has more chips. Turn 6 of hearts. Chris Moorman needs a 7.
No kidding. He needs a 7, and he needs it on the river.
Looking for a 2-outer.
Doesn't hit.
And the river is 9.
So we lose Chris Moorman from the final table of the EPT London main event.
That's Chris Moorman from
one of the 2 English hopes out.
Takes home
taking home £57,000 for that 8th place finish. And Theo Jorgensen now up to 3.3 million near enough. 3rd on the leaderboard with a 66 big blind stack. Well, let's introduce our next guest on EPT Live. Liv Boeree from Team PokerStars Pro, herself an EPT champion. Obviously crushing to see Chris go out in that spot.
Yeah, it was. You know, I've known Chris for a long time, and very, you know, if there's a deserving player, he's definitely one of them. Fantastic, the most winningest online MTT player by such a large margin. It's not even close. It's very, very amazing player, and yeah, it's pretty sad to see him go out so early like that. But yeah, like you said, there was a very, very standard spot by both of them. The money was going in. Chris only had 25 big blinds or so, and the coin went the right way of Theo.
Was Chris sweating there?
like physically sweating?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like he was a little bit.
You expect a guy with all those millions.
No, you're still sweating. EPT, any like major final table, you're going to be sweating. Plus, it's also extremely hot under those lights.
That's true. It's just
I mean,
legitimately
you're sweating
hot.
now, and
Yeah, but that's because you walked into the booth, Liv. My God. Stone, try not to make so much eye contact. I like that he's sweating, actually. I like that they care. I like that it's a big
Yeah.
deal. Well, don't worry, England. There's still Tamer Camel.
so I mean, this is an amazingly stacked final table. Ruben Visser, Theo, and then a friend of mine, another good friend, Steve O'Dwyer. Have you heard all his nicknames yet?
The one Scott Seaver sent us last night. I liked Father Time
Yeah,
was my favorite.
Exactly.
But James coined him the Hairy Beast earlier this week, and he is a beast.
That he is, yes.
And he's hairy.
And that is also true.
By the way, Patrick makes the point on Twitter, I told you Mormon needed to be careful. Well, he did get his money in good, and quite frankly, with his stack, he has to be prepared to take a flip,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. He was careful. He played great. You know, Mormon's been someone who's perhaps always had an image on the very crazy side, which, you know, in the past I'd say was justified, but I think he's learned to sort of temper that and exploit it really, really well. And, you know, to say that he wasn't being careful by getting it in sevens, particularly like Theo, they're both thinking players, and
Yeah.
a 25 BB stack is a really good stack to 3-bet. Because they have to have a hand to get, you know, they feel like they don't have much fold equity by 4-bet jamming. And Theo's definitely a very aggro and tricky player and knows that.
I guess the only thing that sweetens the Mormon elimination is that his chips went to Theo Jorgensen. He's one of your fellow team pros, Lev,
Absolutely, and exactly, and also just, you know, a wonderful man. The man that knocked me out of this tournament, I should add. He sucked out on me, but these things happen. I'm glad to see he's putting the chips to excellent use.
And obviously so much has been said about Theo's comeback to the tournament circuit, and a reminder that if you want to read the piece that Howard Swains wrote for the PokerStars blog, you'll find it online. But also the fact that he could become a new member of the Triple Crown Club.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
And we talk about the hairy beast, Steve O'Dwyer. I mean, it is
Father Time.
no small accomplishment, Liv, that he can make back-to-back EPT London final tables, because the running theme of the week has been that this is one of the toughest legs on the tour. I'm not saying there are any easy legs, but the field here is normally pretty star-studded.
It is, in my opinion, the toughest leg on the tour.
Did you ever play Copenhagen, Liv?
No, I haven't. Never played it.
Because that traditionally was another one which people said is just there's no value in inverted commas, that
Right.
it's just full of Scandi sharks and German high roller specialists.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Well, that was a walk for Ruben Visser in the big blind. I have to say that's slightly less unusual than the amount of limping we saw in the first few hands of the day from Mantas Vizotskis. And he's not played a hand since.
How did those limps work out for him?
I actually managed to get called on the flop both times, and both times I went check, check, turn and river, and he ended up winning with, like, first time he'd flopped 2 pair, the second time he won with queen high.
I mean, you can see his stack size there, Liv. He's playing around 1.8 million, and this was at the 2040 blind level. He limped the button with queen 8 suited, and he limped the cutoff with queen jack suited, which traditionally would be considered raising hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always, you know, a lot of people poo-poo limping, but actually there are times when it is correct. And if you know, he wants to, I mean, particularly the queen jack, you know, it is a hand you want to see flops with, and if you know that you're going to get 3-bet a large amount of the time, but you know, and then you're just going to be forced to fold, you can limp, and if you choose to, then call quite cheaply as you know, an isolation raise. So
Right, that was my only guess, is that he wanted
Yeah,
to.
I mean,
just
that's his
really
gonna be
wanted
his
to see a
thinking.
flop with those hands, and a listener wrote in about
Yeah.
ICM considerations as well.
That's also true. The only trouble is that it does then turn your hand fairly face up.
Right, because the second
Um,
time the flop came ace a7, and you just can never rep an ace when
Right.
you when you limp.
I mean,
before
you
a
can.
flop.
I mean, people do rep a lot of like ace X combos. You know, like ace, ace two, ace three, etc. So here we have a raise from Hagland on the button, and O'Dwyer has defended his big blind.
O'Dwyer, or as Scott Seaver calls him, Father Time, Stevie No Tricks, two-class O'Dwyer, or T. Steve.
Queen 9-9. Action has been checked to Hagland, the pre-flop aggressor, and he continues. And Steve folds. By the way, I did mention there was a tweet from poker journalist Ross Jarvis, which I was going to return to, and then we had the Mormon bust out, Liv arrived, and I kind of let it escape my attention. The hand where Ruben Visser took on Theo Jorgensen, Joe, Theo opened under the gun, Ruben 3-bet, Theo 4-bet, and Visser folded. Ross, it seems like an error for Visser to 3-bet fold and under the gun open against Theo. Is he always bluffing there, or does he 3-bet fold hands like nines, ace jack, etc.?
If those are the only two choices, I'm going to go with always bluffing. I don't think he's folding nines. I think that, we just saw kind of a pre-flop leveling war that Ruben eventually gave up with. I don't know if, where, especially this is before Theo busted Mormon, so I don't really think, it's going to go down the same way as the 2 sevens. It's going to go in if he has 2 nines or better.
Well, how deep were they?
At that point, Theo,
Ruben's deep.
at that point, Theo was the effective stack and
Yeah.
was playing around 30 big blinds.
Yeah, it'd be pretty bad to 3-bet fold. They'd be much more likely to flat with nines and that sort of thing.
Well, I mentioned that we hadn't heard a lot from Vysotskis recently, and his raise to 100,000 gets folds all around. A question for you on the emails, Liv, nuts at pokerstars.tv. Can you tell us a little bit about the player community on the EPT circuit? Is it like a big family and lots of fun, etc.? Is it more than just a poker trip?
No, it's horrible. Everyone's mean. You make me cry. No, it's fantastic. The poker. I mean, I can only really speak for the people that I know on the poker circuit, but
Which is everyone. Come on.
you got me. No, everyone's fantastic. There's a lot of support, and then the amount of fun that's had is just absurd. Let's just put it this way: that I cashed the main event, and then the last 3 days, there's been some partying.
Stuff.
Some partying.
Yeah, well, last night I read a tweet that you and Jonathan and Vanessa,
Yep.
the usual gang
Yep.
of hangovers, getting together.
Yep.
And did it go the way that I would think it typically would?
No comment.
So that's a yes. Okay. Sorry I couldn't make it. I had to be in here early today.
Vysotskis raising for the second hand in a row.
Don't do all the hard dumb by stuff. You get invited.
Oh no, I actually was doing that as a joke. If I wanted to go, I would have just invited myself. I don't need like a specific.
Tamer Camel, the short stack in the big blind. He starts the hand with 705,000.
Well, he's definitely got fold equity.
Hasn't played a hand yet. Obviously slightly crippled by his stack size.
I mean, this guy's legit from London, right?
Yes.
Like to see him go a little deeper than this.
Lives in Willesden. Runs a pizzeria on Good Street.
Oh,
A regular at the Vic.
nice.
Now, maybe if he were to offer some extra incentive, like a free pizza if he wins, a little EPT pizza party.
Well, he decides just to defend. And obviously Vysotskis is curious to know what he's playing behind. 600,000 is the answer.
Can you just defend here with this stack and just see a flop and fold and have 12 big blinds instead of 14?
Questionable.
Yeah.
Questionable. Depends. There are situations, if the player you're your heads up against is extremely transparent, or you have a big a big tail, then I mean you could maybe still do like a check shove and get a fold over a small c-bet. I'm not sure. It's extremely tempting if you have a hand, say like Jack 9, 7, 8, that sort of thing, that you're not happy reshoving, getting it in with, but you can
right, because you're never happy
really
when you
well,
get called,
then,
but right, you can.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for that, but I don't generally recommend it.
Well, Camel checks a second time. There's the delayed c-bet from Vysotskis.
It's one of those things I think that, I liken it to a baseball strategy, which won't translate too well, but sliding into first base, it's just one of those things you're never supposed to do, but in the moment, it's like so tempting.
By the way, Vysotskis has bet the minimum here. In fact, he tried to bet even less than that. The dealer had to remind him that 50,000 is the minimum bet. And Camel just calls.
Okay, now we're getting into territory where it's really even more bizarre and less recommended.
Well, Camel could well have one of those hands, like we were just talking about, 10-9, 8-7.
Jack 9, sure, you'd want to. Some people just want to call and try to hit.
I think he'd be more likely to just shove with Jack 9. To check shove.
Board pairs on the river, and it goes check, check. Well, Vysotskis, you were the last aggressor. You're meant to show first. He shows ace high, ace queen. And ace jack was the hand for Camel.
Well, he managed to stay alive, but yeah, that's also a very interesting call on the turn.
I mean, yes, he would have busted in this particular instance if he'd shoved, but why on earth did he not just rejam it?
Yeah, well,
that's really weird.
That's a good question.
Give me ace jack, I'll be throwing my shoes, socks,
whatever
car
it takes.
keys into the pot.
I am all in. Everything. All my hopes and dreams.
Wow. By the way, I quickly want to address a question from Running Like God on Twitter, who's having trouble finding the live stream on the PokerStars TV app. I've just opened the app on my phone. Now, I have the iOS version. I assume the Android version is exactly the same. The first thing I see when I open the app is a picture of Big Ben, and underneath it says EPT Live London Final Table. And I presume if I click on that, yeah, sure enough, I get the live stream. It really was that simple.
That's all very well and good, but the guy can't hear the live stream, so we don't know. This is not going to help him, is it?
Maybe because he couldn't find it on the app, he opened it on his computer.
To listen for the answer to his
Clutching
question.
at straws, James.
Yeah, that's what I'm good
Clutching
at.
at straws.
Well, I will say that it's kind of on him then to ask a question of the live stream.
Thank you, Joe, for
and not,
rescuing me.
Not be in a position to hear the answer.
Patrick,
the viewer is always right. You've not learned anything from your customer service days.
Man, if they add that into our little list of rules here, that might be it for me.
Patrick has summed up that last hand in 3 words. Very strange play.
Yes.
I don't even know if it can be considered a play. It's kind of a non-play. It was just one step above a fold.
That last hand was raise and take it for Olaf Haglund.
Father Time is one of those people that when he stares you down, he's just reading your soul. He's reading your genetic code.
He really does
He
take a lot.
breaks down your DNA.
And he's one of those people that when Mike McDonald does the stare, it's comical. And when Steve does it, you really feel like he's getting something from it. Like he is,
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Raise and take it.
Extremely good at his live reads.
Okay, Liv, Sven's got a good one. We have a lot of people who email in and say, Liv, what's the weirdest or stupidest question you've ever been asked in an interview? This is a good one from Sven. Liv, what is the most offensive question you've ever been asked in an interview?
Well, I'm probably not going to be able to say it out loud, am I?
I don't know, because it could be a perfectly legitimate question and just not be one that you'd ever want to answer.
That is a very good question. I'm trying to think. The fact that nothing is just leaping to mind is a really good sign that actually I've never.
Or a really
been
bad sign. There've just been so many hundreds of offensive questions.
All that. Actually,
Liv,
this
do you
is
find
gonna
it's
sound
harder
okay.
to play
This is
poker
gonna,
as a woman despite having a smaller brain than most men?
right. You see, I just wouldn't be offended. I'll just laugh. So that'd be great.
Did you have one you were going to say that I steamrolled?
No, I was just trying to think. This is gonna sound perhaps a little cocky, but the things that piss me off in an interview is when someone clearly just hasn't done their research, and they just sit down. They're like, "Oh, so how did you get into poker?" I'm like, if you Google me, that's
depends.
the first thing it says.
Yeah, it really depends, I think, on the sort of the publication it's coming from. Because, like, when it's
Agreed.
People Magazine and you're like, okay.
Absolutely, no, and of course, but I mean, I get asked that by poker journalists.
Yeah.
Like, that's usually their just opening question, like, "Oh, so tell us about your intro." I'm like, really? A, you're going to make me say this again, and B, just, you know this. And I don't know, that annoys. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one with that sentiment.
Sure,
as well.
definitely.
But I mean, again, like, is it really that bad? No.
What's the most offensive question you've ever asked? Didn't you do a somewhat offensive interview? Not offensive, but we'll say cheeky interview with, like, Ron Jeremy, I think, back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Those are the days. Something to do with...
It's whether Ron Jeremy preferred to play 6-9 or Jack King off, and he completely failed to pick up what you were asking.
Yes, he did.
And he then goes into this really kind of like, I know what I'm talking about answer about how obviously King Jack is a more coordinated hand and has more value, and how why would you ever play a hand like
6-9. I just don't understand why you even picked that. That's so random. That's no good at all. No, of course I'd play King Jack. Both cards are much larger. Yes, they are, Ron.
So look, how did you
even though they don't look like they would be that large at all, they are quite large.
So Liv, how did you get started in poker?
Shut up, James. It's too early.
Liv, what's the stupidest question you've ever been asked? Other than this one?
I wish I had a better answer stockpiled for you.
To be fair, it's probably because you wiped them out of your memory, because you've been asked so many that you don't want to remember them.
No, I'm actually really lucky. I haven't been. And I mean, credit to most of the poker media. They're, you know, often, I mean, you get interviewed by the same person a lot, and they really do come up with interesting, you know, fun questions.
Especially on the PokerStars blog, which you guys can check out at PokerStarsBlog.com.
If you didn't sound so disingenuous, that would actually have been a really nice plug for our colleagues at the PokerStars blog.
Instead, it was kind of a backhanded plug, which I'm fine with.
We were discussing a couple of weeks ago, actually, do you think Stapes is capable of doing sincere? Does he have a sincere
Who
gear?
is sincere and what does she look like?
There we go, Exhibit A to the jury.
I'll go with no. No, he
Once
can.
again, I'm okay with that.
Well, another 3-bet here. It's Christopher Frank, the young German who opened in early position to 105,000. Hagelin 3-bets the button, makes it 245 total. Ruben Visser in the small has not folded. Is Ruben a player you've come up against on the circuit, Liv?
Yeah, I've known Ruben for a couple of years. Extremely talented player. I think one of the, if it's fair to say, even slightly underrated players. There was a group of us out for dinner the other night and we were discussing some hands, and he's very, very progressive thinker about the game.
Frank's been relatively quiet, so I would think twice about 3-betting him, especially him raising relatively early.
Meh. If in doubt, whip it out.
I'm glad that you said it. I was
You're in
afraid.
position. 3-bet him.
Someone else is whipping out a stack right now.
So the 4-bet from Frank.
I've been trying to work that phrase into the broadcast, but I thought I'd get in trouble for it.
What, getting it out?
Yep. As long as it's clear we're talking about stacks and chips and bets.
When has it ever not been clear? Obviously, that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're
because
talking about whipping out.
it's on the screen.
Yep.
By the way, talking about stacks and chips, a lot of people are getting tilted by Theo. Crazy better among them. He says, Jorgensen is a mental freak with his chip riffles, shuffles and sweeps. It's both hypnotic and really annoying.
I have to say, having played with him on day 3, to start with, I was intrigued by the sort of whole collapsing really quickly and scooping back up again.
It was
thing.
charming for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, but then after a while, it was just constantly in my peripheral vision.
It's hard not to look at it.
I bet it's going to wind up Father Time as well. But then again,
Good clock joke.
he does transcend. Yeah. It was actually unintentional. I didn't even realize.
Love winding up
Wow.
Father Time.
I'm an unintentional comedic genius.
The whole thing is don't admit to it being unintentional. Just be like, yeah, waiting to get that one out.
We'll present Everston with an award for being the most ill-informed man in poker. Liv, do you have a boyfriend?
Again, do research.
Harris says, Liv, have you ever been missold a lamp?
Missold a lamp.
This guy will not let it. He's one tweet away from
Missold
getting blocked.
I know. I think that's a great question. No, don't block him. More random questions.
It wasn't
That's
random
really,
as a thing.
wind-up joke.
I made a joke about 4 days ago that I was selling a lamp if anyone wanted to buy it. And this guy has been tweeting at me nonstop that he wants the lamp, follows me around the free roll in the chat box asking about the lamp.
Well, then give him the lamp.
I don't even have a lamp.
Give
I don't
one.
own a lamp. I'll have to go out and buy a lamp to sell it to him. I brought in this awesome tea kettle that I bought at Argos to give away.
Should point out, by the way, that you didn't buy it from the branch underneath the Vec.
I didn't, but I still did buy it at Argos or whatever the H it's called. And I was told I can't give it away on the live stream because someone could hurt themselves with it. They burn themselves with tea that PokerStars gave them. Next thing you know, they're going to put them on live commentary for the next year. It's part of a settlement.
It's a litigious society. By the way, we've just had an email from Sean O'Dwyer. Watched the streaming of the final 15 and was ecstatic to see my cousin Steve finish with the chip lead. I'm watching the final table and I'm cheering him on, hoping that he goes one spot better than last time.
So he must be Uncle Time.
Nice one. Ben says that O'Dwyer's stare is better than Ivy's.
I don't know about that. I don't think anything can top that.
By the way, Martin has a request for you, Liv. Can you give a shout out? Good luck, Mark, in the LAPT side event. He did an interview with you in Barcelona and is a big fan.
Good luck, Mark, in the LAPT side event.
Nicely done, Liv.
Thank you for the interview. I appreciate your fandom.
So you remember Mark, obviously. What did he look like? Ow! Ow!
I love the fact that...
I did not come on here to be abused.
But I love the fact...
Psychologically.
No, but the great thing is that when we have Fatima in, she psychologically and emotionally hurts Joe. I like the fact you physically hurt him, and it gives me a lot of pleasure.
I would take physical hurting every day.
Yeah, that's the trouble. He likes it too much.
Over for what Fatima
I've
does.
heard about Fatima's infamous commentary.
Yeah. She is relentless.
Let's pick up the action here. Hagland opens to 100,000. And Steve O'Dwyer, 3 bets from the button. It's now 260 total. The blinds have both folded. Action's back on the Swede.
He's very upright.
He's a tall guy.
Good posture.
He's a
Excellent
very,
posture.
very tall man.
Steve
he
O'Dwyer
is.
looking for tells, admiring posture.
He feels the ripples of this penetrable gaze, transcending time and space. You got to help me out on this.
I think you're doing fine.
No.
He actually doesn't seem to be sweating it at all, to be honest. As this
Oh,
4-bet
do you
would
see that
indicate.
gulp? Nervous gulp when he put that out. That, of course, doesn't mean anything. I level myself into donking it off so many times. I'm like, oh, gulp. They can't have anything.
I mean, I think you're liable to gulp regardless.
Yeah.
That's a tough tell to read. And what do we think? How often do we think Steve's doing this? As a bluff? Probably not that often. That's a 5-bet all in.
And Hagelin calls a huge pot. 5.5 million in the middle, and Olaf Haglund at
Bloody
risk.
hell.
Queens against Ace King. Queens for Haglund, Ace King for Steve O'Dwyer.
Come on, Father Time.
So if Haglund's queens hold, he takes the chip lead, and O'Dwyer will be left with just 1.7 million. But if O'Dwyer hits an ace or a king, or straight cards, or something funky happens flush-wise, and O'Dwyer eliminates Haglund and becomes the monster chip leader, and we're down to 6.
I absolutely hate this race.
This is not really a race.
No, I just hate Ace King versus 2 queens going in all in before the flop. It's just, I don't know, I feel like everyone should just get their money back.
So far, so good for the queens. The turn card is a 4. Steve O'Dwyer looking for an ace or a king on the river. Haglund hoping those queens hold. His tournament life on the line here. The river is a deuce. So Haglund doubles up. The Swede takes the chip lead. O'Dwyer left with 1.7 million. Now one of the shortest stacks of the final 7.
And that's just, you know, JBL. It's just bad luck. Wake up with a huge hand, up against another huge hand, lose a coin flip. It's, you know, you hate to see it go down like that, but that's what happens when, you know, you've got all these players who are, you know, really close in skill level, and so often it just comes down to these coin flips.
That was amazing. I just silenced Stapes just with a glare. Single look. Phone. They should have cameras here.
Why don't you tell everyone what you think of what just happened, Liv?
It's okay.
Am I missing something? What on earth is going on?
We're having a tiff. Don't worry.
Okay. Gonna have to stop bringing in female commentators. You know, look what happens.
This has I don't think this has anything to do with gender, James.
You are different amongst ladies, that's for sure. So Haglund now with 5.5 million. Visser second in chips with 3.5 million. Dwyer down to 1.7. Gotta love this tweet we've just had from Amy Carter. She just tweeted a photograph. She says, 2 days I've had to put up with this. And it's obviously a picture of Mr. Carter sat on the sofa, beer in hand, headphones on, watching the live stream.
Brilliant. As it should be.
She says, shoes required. That's between you and Mr. Carter, Amy.
It looks like he's multi-tabling.
I was gonna say he's got the screen up on 2, or stream up on 2 screens, which I don't. Hey, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
He's on the Stellar as well.
I think he's got the mobile app also going.
Maybe he's listening to 3 different languages at once.
I don't know, but it looks like there's a more than ample "I'm sorry" bouquet on the kitchen table. Which, if Amy bought that for herself, then they've got some problems, maybe.
Now,
as a raise and take it for Ruben Visser.
A few people asking on Twitter, Liv, if that clash is avoidable and whether Steve can actually get away from Ace King there, considering how deep they are.
No.
How many chips did
Haglund
Haglund have?
2.7.
2.7 at the start of the hand.
So we had like 55 big blinds. I mean, Haglund seems to have been fairly active, fairly aggressive. I mean, once Steve 3-bets, he just can't fold. So the only thing that he could have done differently is just flat the raise to start with. But then again, then Steve's sort of losing out on a lot of value, because Hagland is probably going to play back with all of his ace queens, ace jacks, because Steve does have a very aggressive image anyway.
It's an unavoidable confrontation.
Yeah.
And that's my little speech after the hand. What I was trying to say is that no one did anything wrong there.
You are exactly right, Joe.
An email from Sander in the Netherlands. Says, love the stream. By the way, just want to point out that flip was the most perfect thing that could happen for Ruben Visser. Ensures that Steve...
Short of Ruben Visser doubling up through Steve O'Dwyer himself.
If you're not involved in the hand, though,
yes.
the outcome of that hand
yes.
is that you don't want
Agreed.
Steve O'Dwyer to be the monster stack on your direct left.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the seat draw actually at this table, Liv. Who do you think actually has the best position? Is there a good position to have at this table?
I mean, arguably Theo has the best. He's got both the best players to his right. Who then, is going to give him less... I mean, if I was sat anywhere, I'd want to be where Theo's sat.
And a short stack to his left also.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a little annoying if you're trying to, get some steals through, but ultimately, yeah, I think Theo's got the best spot.
By the way, we have now heard on Twitter from Mr. Carter, Ben, I am the beer man. Amy is now out getting some hula hoops for me. Love my life. Have you had the pleasure of sampling hula hoops since you've been on this side of the Atlantic?
I don't think so, no. I don't
The
eat...
ones you put on your fingers.
I don't eat a lot of junk food.
Well, no one believes that line. Hagland limps the small. Visser checks his option. Queen, queen, forward, 2 diamonds. Check, check on the flop. King of spades on the turn.
Check, check on the turn as well. And check, check on the river.
Isn't that very well? Very gentlemanly. Very civilized hand.
Just nobody wants to hurt the other guy. Just friendly poker.
Gentle poker.
Let's just work through a few more emails. Albie Collins says, have you noticed Hagland's jumper, the Shamrock emblem, and 1759, the year Guinness was founded? Happy St. Patrick's weekend.
Oh, yes, it is.
Martinez says, I love you, Liv. Secret fan. Maurice, just getting started on PokerStars, but already love the live feed. Keep on rocking. And good luck to you, Maurice, on your PokerStars online adventures.
Well, St. Patrick's Day is happening on Sunday,
Correct.
which is the hardest working day of the week for people of your ilk, Olivia. The Sunday tournaments. So what's going to take precedence, the Sunday tournaments or the Guinness?
I'm actually flying to Dublin tomorrow.
Really?
Yes, legitimately.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's
I
a
thought
group
of
of
doing
us
that
going.
last year.
Yeah, it's gonna be an experience. I am a little scared.
God, that sounds so awesome.
By the way, for those of you just joining us on EPT Live, wondering what happened between O'Dwyer and Hagland, an all-in flip. Hagland had the queens, O'Dwyer had ace-king, queens held, so Hagland is now the chip leader. A little bit earlier on, we lost Chris Moorman in 8th spot, so we are down to 7 players already. And blinds are currently 25.50 with a 5k ante.
One guy was all bam, and then the other guy was all bam, and the other guy was all like bam, and then Steve was like bam, race.
Meanwhile, I'm hearing that action is underway. And the high roller final table, Vicky Corrin just tweets that they are down to 8, which of course is the official final table. We'll try and bring you some updates from that tournament later on today. A reminder, live updates are available via the PokerStars blog. After this hand, we'll reveal the free roll password. Let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, Ruben must have something here.
Frank opens to 105,000. Vysotskis 3 bets to 250, and now we get the cold 4 bet from Ruben Visser in the small blind. Gets rid of O'Dwyer in the big. It's back on the original razor. This is made at 460,000. And Tamer Camel has not been eliminated. He's just got out of his chair. Frank folds.
Gets out of this mess he started.
All in or fold, really, for Vizotskis.
And if he was just limping before, yeah, to try to protect his hands. Wow.
Fingers in the cookie jar.
Yeah, Ruben, the 4-bet bluff.
Twice now he's been caught doing that. When he 3-bet Theo Jorgensen and when he 4-bet there.
I mean, I'm really surprised to see him try to make the 4-bet bluff. Obviously, the cold 4-bet does look very, very strong.
It's a great spot.
But Vizotskis before, you know, with his just sort of limping earlier on, you would guess if he's now actually 3-betting, he must really like his hand.
I don't think you can go... I mean, the fact that the guy's gone to this stage of the tournament, you've got to assume that he's a little more aggressive than sort of the picture you've portrayed, just because he's limped a few times. I mean, I might be wrong, but...
No, I think it's a great counterpoint. I mean, who can really say? I mean, sometimes he probably is going to be 3-betting light, just not this time.
By the way, Visser now moves to 3rd on the leaderboard. Theo Jorgensen, the 2nd biggest stack at the table. The short stack, the man under the gun here. Tamak Camel starts the hand with 500,000. 10 big blinds, dead on. And he's all in. Hagelin wants a count. Well, because he posted the ante, it's actually 495.
Could be work like one of those, you know, $9.99 discounts. Oh, $4.95.
Oh, it's only $4.95. Well, in that case, can't afford not to.
He's been called by Hageland. Everyone else folds. Showdown. King, Queen suited the hand for Hageland. Ace 10, the hand for Camel.
Boy, if you have ace 10 here, you're ahead, but you aren't really that happy.
No, it's not what you want to see.
We've already lost one of the 2 Englishmen to make this final table. Chris Moorman went out in 8th. Are we about to lose Tamak Camel in 7th place? He needs ace high to hold.
Who folded aces or kings? Excuse me, kings or queens? Anybody? Anybody fold a king or a queen?
There's a queen in the door. Well, things become interesting if Hagelin makes 2 pair on the turn.
Hagelin really hoping 3 people folded kings.
Camel needs a king or an ace on the river. Just a 14% chance of survival here. The river is an 8. We lost Moorman and now we lose Camel. The 2 Brits are out.
Still no English winner on the EPT this season.
Still 2 events to go. So Tamak Camel collects just shy of £80,000 for his 7th place finish. We are now 6-handed and Steve O'Dwyer is the shortest stack. Remember, he started the day as chip leader, but the situation changed when Olaf Hagelin doubled up through O'Dwyer. He's now the big chip leader with more than 6 million, almost a 2-to-1 chip lead over the rest of the field. And we play on.
We've just found that there is actually a Twitter account called Lamp of Stapes. And its first tweet is, "Please sell me, I'm lonely at home whilst you're at the Vic." And there's a picture of an angle poised lamp.
I told that lamp no computer privileges. No internet while I'm out. Ridiculous.
Got on your brazzers.
Now, I did promise that we would bring you the password for today's EPT Live free roll. Once again, the game will be starting at 8:15 Central European time. The password for today's free roll, as we continue to move around the London Underground map, is OVAL. O-V-A-L, all lowercase. OVAL is the password for today's EPT Live free roll.
You didn't tweet a picture of it this time, inadvertently.
Thanks, Liv, for reminding me of my past transgressions.
You know, James, speaking of London, today on my way in, I got to see a lot of sites. I got to see the Marble Arch, the Parliament, and also the London Eye. I drove by all 3 of those.
The Parliament.
No,
yeah,
that's
the
the
Parliament.
thing. Joe keeps attaching definite articles to landmarks that don't need them. Now, the London Eye, that's fine.
Yeah.
Parliament
I meant to say Eye of London.
is just Parliament, and Marble Arch is just Marble Arch. The thing is, we honestly want you to sound like you know what you're talking about. I don't want you to sound like a tourist. You're not as stupid as people think you are.
Let's just assume that I am.
Tom on Twitter says, have you noticed how quickly this dealer shuffles the cards? Incredible!
Speed dealer.
Kate's one of the best.
A lot of respect to all the dealers on the EPT. And Tobias says, the 2 Brits are out and the 2 Vikings are in the lead. Told you so, smiley face.
Feels like 4.7. It's actually really good.
And Harris says, just to let you know that at Lamp Stapes isn't me before you block me. I love the way that Chris Dyer has written the perfect link into our next break. Can Frank loosen his hoodie? Can Father Time sit up straight? Can Theo stop chip sliding? Can somebody pull down Camel's cap? Find out after the break. Well, Camel's gone, so we don't need to worry about his baseball cap anymore.
I'm willing to go back on what I said yesterday and say that Christopher Frank does resemble Bieber just the teensiest bit.
Can't see his face.
I was wrong. You should never say never.
Can we coin the phrase that he is the Justin Bieber of poker?
Okay, James.
Excellent.
If that would make you happy.
It does. I just like ridiculous cliches that have no actual meaning. So Jorgensen's raise has been 3-bet by Frank. Action back on Theo. Quite a lot of our British viewers distraught at the way this final table's gone so far.
So once again, this can, this can be 2 players of the hand. This can be a leveling war. We know that Theo is aggressive all over the place, but from the button, he's just going to be raising super wide. Despite Christopher Frank's age, he has certainly shown plenty of skill all week. So I don't think he necessarily has to have a hand to 3-bet.
So Theo is going to play the flop in position. He calls Frank's 3-bet. With 650,000 in the middle, we go heads up to the flop. Which is 10-6-4. What percentage of the time would you expect Chris Frank to 3-bet here, to continuation bet here, Liv?
Reasonably high percentage. I mean, I think he's extremely likely to have a value hand. I just don't. He knows that Theo's aggressive. He knows he's tricky. He knows he's quite sticky as well. I think it'd be reasonably suicidal for him to sort of, take random trash and, play a big inflated pot out of position against Theo.
And also, Chris Frank has spent enough time sharing a table with Theo Jorgensen to know that, as Joe was saying pre-flop, Theo does not like to fold to 3-bets.
Exactly.
And that's what you mean by sticky?
Yeah. Just doesn't go anywhere. Theo's got a lot of chips now as well. I mean, it's just all more reasons to avoid a confrontation like this unless you have something sexy.
Board pairs on the turn. Frank's C-bet of 255,000 called pretty quickly by Theo.
Frank's now hating his life if he's got something like ace-king, ace-queen, because he probably still thinks he has the best hand. It's a good chance he does, because Theo's capable of floating a lot here. Very dry board. The trouble is for Frank is that the board hasn't paired if he does... the board hasn't changed. So if he does have something like ace-king, ace-queen, it's going to be very hard to continue.
Frank just keeps firing away, and he's got a big portion of his chips invested in this hand. He will have less than a pot-sized bet left for the river if Theo calls.
So in Frank's spot, even if you've completely missed the flop, understandably you're going to c-bet the flop, but on the turn, do you slow down if you still haven't improved?
It's a tough one. I think, personally, if it was me,
Shows Queen Jack.
Frank did.
He
Yes.
is double barreling.
That is
Wow,
bold.
nice.
That
That
is
is-
really bold.
That is a bold play.
Liv, I actually, you mentioned that Theo's a sticky player. I have a question for trivia question. What is brown and sticky?
Stick.
She nailed it. Liv Boeree, you nailed it.
Sorry, I didn't realise we were 7 years old again. A question on the emails from Andy. Hi, team. And a lot of people are still curious about the hand where Mormon went out. I'm not quite sure why, but maybe we just need to sort of break it down for people who are maybe newcomers to poker. I just wonder what Liv thought of Mormon's shove. He's almost never dominating with sevens. The reason I ask is he's such a top player. Does he need to take a flip? Obviously, you have to win flips at some point to win an MTT, but I just think Chris is so good, he could find a better spot. Guess the fact he's minted means the money jumps are less important.
I disagree with just almost everything in that statement. No offense.
No, that's fine. I think, but I think it's important to correct people's perceptions and explain why it's
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I mean, no, no, they're all fair questions. I mean, let me read. Where's the email?
Well, the first thing is to say that he's almost never dominating there when he shoves with sevens.
That's not true. I mean, Theo is going to probably three bet decide with his small pairs anyway, because he can't really just peel, because he's going to be playing them out of position, and he's not getting the right price to be set mining against, because Chris is pretty short stacked. He's only got 25 big blinds, so he's probably so there are those hands in his range. There's, Theo is also an aggressive enough player to be doing it with sort of ace-x combos, which he's dominating. And then, yes, of course, there is a chance he's up against an overpair, but that's extremely unlikely. It's much more likely that if Theo does have a value hand, it's probably more like a king-queen, ace-king, ace-queen hand, because there's just a lot more combos of those.
And that's exactly what he was up against. Let's come on to the next point. Does he need to take on a flip?
Yes, he does. He's reasonably short-stacked. He's at a tough table. It's not like it's a super soft table where he's playing against a bunch of amateurs. He's playing against 3 or 4 of the best players in the world. And therefore, Chris's edge is minimalized a lot. Even if Chris does believe he is the best player at the table, which he may or may not believe, I don't know. And it's hard to say whether he is or not. But it's absolutely unavoidable. And it would be a very bad play by him to play it, more cautiously than he did.
And to address the last point that he's minted, the money jumps don't mean anything to him. He's playing for the win. He wants that live title, right?
Of course he wants that live title, but the money, you don't know that. I mean, I don't know Chris. I'm sure, Chris obviously is an extremely successful player, and yes, he does have money, but you can't say that the money jumps don't mean anything to poker players. I think people do often overestimate poker players' worth, and there's just so many situations that we might not know about.
Well, just to draw a line under that hand, Chris McFadden agrees with everything you said, and he says, with regards to Chris's play, sevens was standatory play.
Standatory.
Standatory.
Obligation.
Jorgensen, raising under the gun +1 to 110,000, gets 3-bet by Olaf Hagland. He's made it 280 total. Hagland.
Well, if he's
Chip
stealing,
leader.
it's a very sexy spot to steal. Because you look like you'll never do that with a weak hand.
Theo, let's it go.
Obviously, we've got a few people who've just tuned in, slightly surprised that Steve O'Dwyer is the short stack. They obviously saw the action yesterday on Red Online that Steve was coming into the final table as chip leader, but relatively early on, he doubled up Olaf Hagland, meaning the Swede is now the chip leader. You can see that from the start of the day, he's added 3.5 million, almost the exact same number of chips that Steve O'Dwyer has lost. Ruben Vista's lost a little, Frank's gained a little. Theo Jorgensen, another big gainer, as is Mantis Vizotskis. So we've lost 2 players. The 2 Brits are gone. We're 6-handed with 12 more minutes on the level. Okay, I'm officially done with hearing from people who are tilted by Theo's chip shuffling. I get it. You're
Nothing
not a fan,
yeah.
but you don't need to tell us about it.
There's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, do they really expect one of us to go down there and say, Theo, a lot of people watching the live stream find it rather annoying. Can you please stop doing it?
If it makes you feel any better, Theo is a really nice person.
He is.
You all right down there, Master Puppets?
Sorry, I was just plugging my phone in.
Clearly.
Why is it your phone never, ever has enough charge?
I don't know what its problem is. I swear, I've never had an iPhone drain battery like this. I think there's something wrong with it.
I
It's
know, it's
brand
like
new.
every
It's an
time I
iPhone
call
5.
Liv, she's like, oh, sorry, my phone died. It's crazy.
I just don't understand it.
We're going to see a flop here. Frank the Razor to 105,000 gets called by Vizotskis.
Vizotskis in position. A Jack 10-6 flop with 2 hearts. I have to say, and I appreciate that he's got his face squeezed by that hoodie, but Chris Frank looks ill.
Like Elliot from the end of ET. All zipped up in that hoodie.
Check the flop, Vizotskis bet, and Frank folded. Maybe Chris Frank is staying in the Radisson Hotel and was disturbed by the fire alarm at 6 a.m.
Do tell.
Many members of the poker media, including our very fine production team here, are staying in that particular hotel, and the fire alarm went off at 6 a.m.
Wunderbar.
Exactly.
Which is
so
probably exactly the time Jonathan was getting home from being out with Liv. He probably tried to cook something in his room.
Actually, to be fair, Jonathan didn't come out last night in the end.
Oh, really?
He couldn't handle the pressure because of the previous night.
Wow. Peeling back the curtain. Jonathan is a human being.
I got an excellent picture of Mercier and I in a McDonald's.
That's
in the wee hours.
That's what I'm really upset about missing out on, is the late night McDonald's.
Can I just point out you just directly contradicted yourself? About half an hour ago, you kind of took the moral high ground. I don't eat junk food.
I don't eat junk food.
And now you're saying that you miss late night McDonald's.
McDonald's is a restaurant. I don't eat junk food. James. I do enjoy a fine dining experience from time to time.
Keep telling yourself it's a restaurant, buddy.
McDonald's is delicious. And if you say otherwise, you're a liar. Action folds around all of Hagland.
I like this question.
He looks like a McNugget man to me.
I do like this question from Kelvin on Twitter. Liv, does looking grumpy and angry give you an edge in live tournaments? All the poker players at this table seem to be depressed. They should be like Negreanu and smile more.
I don't know. There you go. There's the winner of the question.
The winner of the stupidest question ever asked.
I think what you perceive as being grumpy or depressed could be that they're focused.
Intense thought.
Oh, I feel mean now.
Oh, stop it. They can take it. All you said was, I don't know.
And then awarded him a prize for asking a stupid question.
Well, I
Yeah,
said
no,
stupid. C-Bet takes it down for Hagland.
So in 7.5 minutes' time, the tournament will go on a break. When the players come back from that break, the blinds will be up to 30,000, 60,000 with a 10,000 ante. And after that break, we'll have some guest analysis from Mike Timex McDonald, an EPT champion who went deep in this tournament. I believe finished in 20th place. We'll also welcome another member of Team Pro in the booth. Chris Moneymaker will be here later on this evening. We'll be joined by Mohsen Charania, the grand final champion from Season 8, Daniel Negreanu from Team Pro, and Lex Veldhaus. And we can see how many times Stapes tries to bait Lex.
Liv and I were just practicing the Mike McDonald stare down on each other, and I could only hold it for like 3-4 seconds before I started tearing up. I don't know how he does it. I hope he doesn't do it when he's in the booth, because I don't know what I'll do. I will lose it.
We've discussed during the week that I do have a clause in my contract to Stapes wrangle and keep you under control. I think we need to amend that clause and add Liv's name to it. You two are like kids at the back of a bus.
Oh, whatever. There you go. There's my.
I was going to say.
That's my
I love it.
10 cents.
Liv tries to counter the argument by going, yeah, whatever.
Whatever. What?
Thank you for proving my point.
Free bet pot, pre-flop, blind on blind.
No, I think Frank just limped and then Vizotskis raised.
I see.
Well done, Joe.
Just a 2-bet pot. Well, I was being Liv started it.
Don't worry, we'll be separating them in 5 minutes' time.
She keeps looking at me.
A check, a bet, and a fold. An email from Dominic to nuts@pokerstars.tv. He says, I'm turning 31 today. Please make my dream come true and ask Liv Boeree to wish me happy birthday on air.
James, look, she's hurting me. See?
That makes me happy. What would make Dominic happy is if Liv could wish him a happy birthday. 31 today.
Many happy returns, Dominic. Enjoy your big day.
Wow. I'm going to change my name to Dominic.
Sven says, I'm coming to London in 3 weeks. Please ask Liv for a good restaurant I should visit, not Asian.
What's your definition of Asian?
I guess he's talking about Chinese, Thai.
Well, because is it the American definition of it or the British definition? 'Cause
Okay, well,
those
let's
are two different.
Well, let's subtract Indian food, Chinese food, and Thai food, and Japanese food.
All right.
Vietnamese, Laotian, Korean.
I'm sure there's a good fish and chippy somewhere. You can go to. Oh, I don't know. Go to timeout.com. They'll tell you. Or TripAdvisor.
Yelp.
I've been playing.
I get all my
I've been
restaurant.
playing Hostess and like, Liv, what's a good bar we can go to? I've had those questions a lot this week.
I get all my.
And I can't. I can't be put on the spot like that. I just end up taking people to the like garlic and shots over and over.
It seems like a weird question to ask a human being in this day and age, when there are so many sources you can find your answer without actually bothering someone.
Yes.
Personally, I get all of my restaurant recommendations by writing into live poker broadcasts. It's where you find some of the best stuff.
No, there are many good restaurants. I just cannot think of any off the top of my head. But go with some good Italian, or I was going to suggest Hakkasan, but
There's a place called Garfunkel's
that
I'm
might
quite fond of.
fall under the Asian thing.
Hakkasan definitely ticks the Asian bracket.
Well, it depends.
Here we go. We got it all in. And a call.
Visser opened. Frank 3-bet. Visser shoved on him. Frank calls. 9's the hand for Visser. Frank, the player, at risk with ace-king. It's another flip at the final table.
How many flipping flips are we going to have here?
If Visser's 9s hold, we'll lose Christopher Frank in 6th place. And if Frank improves, Visser will be left with just $500,000 in chips. So we've lost Chris Moorman in 8th. We lost Tamer Camel in 7th. Will we now lose Christopher Frank in 6th? He needs an ace or a king. He needs straight cards. He needs flush cards. This is 9's, currently a marginal favourite. The flop is reasonably safe for Ruben Visser. Doesn't want to see a heart on the turn.
No, he sure doesn't.
The turn is a 10. So that takes away the heart draw. Only an ace or a king now for Frank. The young German's put his jacket on.
Oh, you don't. That's really bad for Witte. Oh,
A 7.
it's a straight.
This improves to a straight and eliminates Christopher Frank, who will not become the second youngest EPT champion ever. The German out in 6th, and we are down to 5. Well, Christopher Frank, for finishing 6th, did lock up a 6-figure score, £112,000. And with 5 players remaining, Steve O'Dwyer has managed to ladder up into at least 5th place. With a sub-30 big blind stack, he is the low man at the table. Olaf Hagland and Ruben Witte are the 2 biggest stacks, and not that much separating them.
And I think what's really cool for Ruben, at least in this spot, in addition to having a ton of chips now, is that he's officially eclipsed his finish at his last EPT final table. Ruben finished 6th at the PCA, so now he's guaranteed at least 5th. Always like to see that.
No, it's great to see. Ruben's, again, one of the nicest guys on the tour, and very deserving player. Excellent player. Probably not what the outcome that Steve O'Dwyer wanted to see.
While they're just sorting
Definitely
out
not.
While they're just sorting out the chips, a quick question for Stapes on the emails from Mike. He says, Joe, if McDonald's is a restaurant, what does that make Subway? A health store?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a diet food store. Do you guys have $5 footlongs? You don't have that here. What is the equivalent?
£5 footlong?
Is it really £5 footlongs?
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could get a £5 footlong back in the day, at least. Well, guys.
And it's not Subway, it's the tube. Thank you.
I think they might just play one more hand this level, just one more hand before the break, and then we'll have to bid adieu to Miss Boeree.
2-6, I think. Yeah, 2-6. Yeah, something like that. And you had 3-2.
So the first hand of 5-handed play, the last hand with the blinds at 25.50. A reminder that when we come back from the 15-minute break, they'll be playing 30-60 with a 10k ante.
Yeah, Liv, Steve's in a real stupid spot right now. He's got 6 million to his right, 2.6 to his left.
Oh no, our Norton protection's been deactivated again.
That's tournament clock Norton protection too. You don't know what kind of viruses a clock can get. Blinds going up next level to 300,000, 1.2 million. Well, we're going to see a flop on this last hand before the break.
Zotskis in position, Jorgensen with the pre-flop betting lead. And that flop is King 5-3 with 2 hearts. And a continuation bet gets the job done for Theo. So, Liv, thank you very much and enjoy Dublin.
Thank you.
Enjoy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow.
Thank you very much. And yeah, you guys do the same. Are you working tomorrow or you got the day off?
I do have the day off tomorrow.
Come with us.
Thinking about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right, we'll talk. Depends what time I get out of here tonight.
So after the break, we'll be joined by Mike Timex McDonald, and our live action, 5-handed action from the EPT London final table will resume on PokerStars.tv.